Hi, I'm Anna McEwen, and this is The Epic Narrative. And now, my dad, Bob Switzer.
Well, once again, David's life continues to be complicated by relationships and relationships and relatives. That's the other R word. Relationships and relatives, and his own personal struggles as a king and as a father and as a husband and as a diplomat. It's not an easy thing to be a leader. And even though you may have a lot less responsibility than the king of a country, it doesn't take away from the fact that there are times that you have to figure out a way to deal with things without turning it into an issue or stress for the entire government or the entire company or the entire ministry team or the entire body of believers, church people that are with you, or school people that you're with, or classmates, whatever. Like, there's ways to do that. And I'm not saying David didn't have people that he trusted and interacted with. I think he probably did. It's just when he lost Absalom, he really thought that this was a national day of mourning. He just misinterpreted the moment, which is fine. It's fine. He's not perfect. We get that. We know that. He just misinterpreted the moment, and instead of everyone, thinking everyone's going to be so sad that his son, this beautiful, amazing specimen of a man, is dead, most people were like, yeah, we're fine with it. Like, the guy was a jerk. He was cunning and deceitful and clearly wanted to kill you and kill us. So yeah, we're not really sorry about this. And honestly, we should have all seen it coming and probably left him in exile. So David puts his big boy pants on, and he goes down to the gate. He starts greeting people and doing the appropriate thing, which is honoring those who were willing to give their life for him and to protect him. You know, sometimes, you may not have a group of people who are literally in battle for you, but you do have people who battle for you. And even though things may not turn out the way that you would like them to, you still can honor those who fought for you. Now, whether that's a position of promotion or just narrating or facilitating a conversation between you and your siblings, or you and your parents, or you and your boss, or like whatever that little battle might be, but for you it's a big thing given your circumstances, but it didn't quite turn out the way you wanted to, don't turn that opportunity to honor those who fought for you into an expectation that everyone's going to be sad that it didn't turn out perfect. Take the opportunity to be a good leader. And that's what David ultimately did. And he did so because he got encouragement from Joab. So the next verse, verse 9. Now this, okay, I'm just going to read a bunch of verses, but just trust me, there is a lot of time and a lot of activity that takes place in these things. So we'll break them down. So verse 9, throughout the tribes of Israel, all the people were arguing amongst themselves, saying, the king delivered us from the hand of our enemies. He is the one who rescued us from the hand of the Philistines. But now he has fled the country to escape from Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed to rule over us, has died in battle. So why do you say nothing about bringing the king back? And King David sent a message to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. Ask the elders of Judah, why should you be the last ones to bring the king back to his palace, since what is being said throughout Israel has reached the king at his quarters? You are my relatives, my own flesh and blood. Why should you be the last ones to bring me back as king? And say to Amasa, are you not my own flesh and blood? May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if you are not the commander of my army for life in the place of Joab. And he won over the hearts of the men of Judah so that they were all of one mind, and they sent word to the king, return, you and all your men. Then the king returned and went as far as Jordan. Now the men in Jordan had come from Gilgal to go out and meet the king and bring him across the Jordan. Should I stop there? Okay, well, no. Shishimi, son of Garza, the Benjamite from Baharam, hurried down with the men of Judah to meet the king, and with him were 1,000 Benjamites, along with Zibiah, the steward of Saul's household, and the 15 sons and 20 servants, and they rushed to the Jordan where the king was, and they crossed at the ford to take the king's household over and do whatever he wished. When Shimei, son of Gera, crossed the Jordan, he fell down before the king and said to him, "May the Lord not hold me guilty. Do not remember how your servant did wrong on the day that the king left Jerusalem. May the king put it out of his mind, for I, your servant, know that I have sinned. But today I have come here as the first from the tribe of Joseph to come down and meet my lord the king." And then there was we'll stop there because there's a lot. Trust me, we've covered a lot. So we start back in verse 9. Throughout the tribes of Israel. So the storyline divides the nation again. So the idea of Israel, right, is the 10 northern tribes. These are Saul's people. These are Benjamites and everybody up around them. And when it says that the people were arguing amongst themselves, these are the average people. And they're going to their leadership. So in the villages, at the city gates, at the village gates, at the elder's home, you have average people saying, "What's going on? Why aren't we bringing the king back?" And when they talk about the king, they're talking about David. What's going on? We should do this. We should acknowledge. What they're saying when they say, "Let's bring the king back," is they're saying, let's acknowledge the fact that we were disloyal, which is really a pretty big act of humility. They want their elders to go to David and say, "Hey, we got it wrong. We got caught up in the idealism of a young leader. We got caught up in the passion of politics. We forgot our loyalties and we lined up with somebody who seemed to have a lot of momentum. We made a mistake." They want him, when you bring back the king, you ask for forgiveness. When you bring back the king, you're asking to renew the original covenant that they had made as elders with King David when he took over, when he came up out of Hebron and took over the palace. Before they took over Jerusalem, he's saying, this is a big. When they say, "Why haven't we brought the king back?" They're asking. They're saying, "Why haven't we acknowledged the fact that we were not loyal? Why haven't we asked forgiveness for our disloyalty? Why haven't we made reparations and repair the covenant that we originally took with David? We should be expressing new loyalty, renewed loyalty to David, and let's see what happened." They're saying, "Listen, he fled the country because of Absalom. We followed Absalom. We anointed him to rule over us, but he's dead. So why say nothing about bringing him back?" And that's a great phrase to basically say, what's the worst that could happen? Let's apologize. Let's be humble. Let's tell him, we'll be loyal to you again. We're sorry about this. I mean, how bad could it get? We already are as disloyal as you can be. Like we've already crossed so many lines, so many boundaries at this point. Our best option, really our only option, is to be humble and ask forgiveness and tell them we'll never let it happen again. So all of this is going on in the northern tribes. And then you have okay, so within all of those people, right, you're going to have different groups that are also vying for power. Why? Because there's a ton of instability in the government. Leaders, families within the villages are trying to get loyal to David and get rid of the ones who supported Absalom. So that is also implied and nuanced in the language here. You've got people that are like, let's say you were in a village of, I don't know, a couple thousand people, and your village elders or your city elders pledged allegiance to Absalom. And when Absalom took over in Jerusalem, the trumpet sounded and everybody's like, we have a new king. The king is Absalom. And the elders are like, we are loyal to Absalom. And all the village people are like, oh, okay. I guess we're with Absalom now. And then they hear, well, Absalom's going to take on David. David's run from the country. He's 25 miles away in this fortified city, but Absalom's putting together a huge army, and the army gathers, and they all leave, and then the army is kind of coming back, but coming back in pieces, bits and pieces, and people are like, it was a horrible battle. Nobody knew what was going on. Absalom was a terrible leader. He ended up being killed, buried there on the battlefield. Joab, was there, and all of his guards, the 10 guards, they all stabbed him. It was a horrific ending. And we're all here. We're hoping David doesn't know that we were part of the battle. Like, don't tell anybody that we went. So now within those villages, within that little city, you now have other family leaders who have been vying for power, playing politics, who immediately call for the resignation, so to speak, of the elders that led them into rebellion against David. They call into question their wisdom. They call into question their leadership. They call into question their family line. They like every little mistake that was made, every time there was a rebellious child within their family line, they say, see, I'd be a better leader. I'd be a better elder, and I would pledge loyalty to David. So not only do you have the people saying, what's the worst that could happen? Let's be humble. Let's ask for forgiveness. Let's see what happens when we go to David and renew our covenant with him. And you've got people that are like, yes, not only will I do that, but we will, I'll take over this. I'll take over leadership of the city. I'll take over leadership of the village. You need me in charge of things. Let's remove this family, this dishonorable family, this unwise, undiscerning leader who clearly was caught up in the moment, was distracted by the beauty of Absalom and by the deception of Ahithophel, and I'll be a much better leader. Like they're playing politics. So I bring it up only because I want you to understand, like, this little rebellion that occurred in the nation is huge. It's begging. It's begging to be lit on fire. Yeah, it's like kindling, like the starter wood with kerosene on top of it. Like, it's just, man, it is so, if you had static electricity, this thing would light on fire. That's how tight this is getting. So David's response is going to be really, really important. Really important. Because one unwise move, not that it would be wrong, because there's lots of choices he can make, and they're not all wrong choices. But if he doesn't make the wisest decision, then he's gonna, like, the ramifications in the country is going to be felt for years. So David has this moment, not this moment, but he gets the information, right? It says that the information is coming back to him in the next verses. King David sent the message to Zadok and Abiathar, the priest. Ask the elders of Judah, why should you be last in to bring the king back to his palace? Since it's being said throughout Israel, the northern tribes, what they are saying has reached me here at the quarters. Like, it's come across the Jordan all the way to where I'm at. They're sending messengers. I'm getting information that the northern tribes want to do whatever they can to connect with me, that they're willing to ask forgiveness, to renew covenants, to, like, they're showing humility. They're desperate. I get it. but at least they're doing it. David's like, where's the south? Where are my people? Literally, where's my family? Why haven't you come up here? We're blood. These guys are all basically, they've always been loyal to Saul. Judah, you took me in from the wilderness. You put me in as king at Hebron. You followed me for 7 years while the northern 10 tribes tried to figure out another way to bring Saul's relative into authority. They battled me in civil war for 7 years. You were loyal to me. You showed me such honor and devotion as family, and now where are you? Nobody sent me a message from the south. Nothing. Where's the south? Where's the south? So he sends both priests. Both priests. He's like, you're my relatives. Your family. Why are you the last ones to call me? And he says to Amasa, which, if you remember, he was the commander that Absalom put in charge. And he says to Amasa, basically gives him a promotion without really ever seeing him. I mean, I know he knows him, but he's a nephew of David. He was Absalom's general. Now, keep this in mind. What was the general's job? His job was to kill David. His number one priority: amass the army, kill David. Remember? Because the plan, if you go all the way back a number of podcasts ago, right? The plan from Hushi was put together this massive army, go after David regardless of where he's at, fall on them like the dew of the morning or rain of the rain. It was a lot. Fall on them completely, and they will scatter and leave David, and then then you can kill him. That was the plan. The plan was always kill David. Amasa was David's nephew, so he's going after his uncle. Remember, of course, Joab's also an uncle, a nephew, and so is Abishai, who's also a nephew. So these are all direct relatives of David. And David says to him, I'm going to put you in charge of my army. Right? We're family. If you come back, I'll forgive you. I will forget your lack of loyalty. I will forget that your job was to kill me, and I will give you a new place. I will give you a new start. I will put you in a place of leadership. I will put you in a place of government influence. I will put you at the table next to me as my commander and chief of all armies. I'm going to... You're like, what happened to Joab? Yeah, Joab's getting demoted in this message. That's the bottom line. And he's letting everyone know. Now, Joab made a choice out in the field to kill Absalom. David knows that was Joab's choice. He also knows that everybody knew not to kill Absalom. And he doesn't go after Joab. He just demotes him. And he lets everyone know, yeah, I've got a new general. I'm hiring a guy who actually was out to kill me. I'm going to move Joab over. You know what? This is not the first time that Joab's kind of gone off the rails when it came to things I've asked him to do. He's kind of, periodically he just kind of goes off and does his own thing. He doesn't see the big picture. He kind of stays focused, right? We've talked about that about Joab. He's a good friend. He's been a good friend. He's been through a lot with David. He's had these moments of, direct, incredible influence in David's journey and in his life. I mean, he's helped David make life-altering choices and helped David make the right one. Pretty impressive. But he's always kind of had this seed of rebellion. And David doesn't think Joab really understood what Absalom was trying to do. He doesn't see that Absalom was really trying to communicate to David, you let me down as a father. You let me down as a defender of the innocent. You let me down as a defender of my sister. And I have to step up and do what's right. And I shouldn't have that role. You should have taken care of this. Now, I know Absalom had all kinds of problems. I do, as far as like his integrity and the level of deception that this guy was able to operate under is crazy. And the level of, that deception was woven into politics. So his manipulation of people and his ability to take advantage of his role as a prince, pretty impressive. But David tied it all back to a larger picture of family that Absalom was really trying to correct in his own twisted way. Joab didn't get that. And David, despite all what Absalom did, really believed that somewhere in there, if he had had another chance, he could have made things right for Absalom. But that's often the case, right? Often the case with people who have fallen far short in areas. They keep wanting to reset. They keep saying, let's forget the past and let's move on. Like, let's not deal with what I've done wrong. Let's pretend everything was okay. Wow, and that is not a pattern that ever works. It just doesn't. I understand why you want the pattern. I do. That makes perfect sense because, well, if you take on that pattern, you don't ever have to deal with things, and it certainly seems a lot easier. But you still deal with it. It weighs you down. You're carrying around a package that turns into a box, that turns into a backpack, that turns into a cart, and pretty soon you're trying to haul a frickin' airplane on your back, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But David had that mindset. And Joab missed that. So he sends this message to Amasa, and it says he won over the hearts of the men of Judah so that they were all of one mind, and they sent word to the king, return, you and all your men. So the level of mercy that David is showing is huge, because not only if he shows mercy to Amasa, he's letting everyone know that everyone that served under Amasa will also be given mercy. You see, if he reached down the ranks and picked somebody who wasn't part of the leadership clan, if he wanted to remove Joab and said, you know what, I'm gonna pick somebody who's never actually rebelled against me to be my new leader, who's never, we maybe we're related, but we've never had a crossword. He's never been in rebellion. He could have looked around him at a number of commanders and loyal warriors that he could have pointed to and said, you know what? Love Joab, been through a lot with Joab, but he's no longer commander-in-chief because I can't have him going off the rails anymore. I'm going to put you in command. How about Benaiah? Benaiah's been with David for years. He's been the captain of the king's guard for years. Loyal, one of David's mighty men. This man has such integrity. He could have easily said, Joab, you need to step aside. I'm putting Benaiah in charge. And Joab probably would have thought, okay, you're right. You're right. I deserve that. I'm not sorry for what I've done, but I deserve that. I could totally see Joab responding that way. I mean, I'm sure he would have said it in more words, but he would have said it. He would have been okay with it. But instead, being the ever-wise diplomat, David reaches out to the commander of the army that was out to kill him, and he says, I'm going to show you mercy. I'm going to promote you to the commander of my armies. And by doing so, David knows that all the leadership that came under him also will receive that mercy. Like they get it. They get it. David is reaching out to everyone saying, guys, you don't have to fear me. I'm not coming in with a sword. I'm not coming in with a hammer. I am not coming in with Joab. Joab likes the hammer. I'm not coming in with Joab. As a matter of fact, I'm replacing him with one of your own. because I'm going to show love and trust and mercy. And because of that, it's really Amasa who brings David's case to the elders and the leaders of Judah. Because Amasa was showed love and loyalty, he goes to David and he goes to the leaders and he explains everything, and he moves the leaders of Judah to welcome David, and they do. Amasa's loyalty to David, right? Okay, so he's showing forgiveness and kindness to David because David is showing forgiveness and kindness to everyone, including the leaders who had supported and fought for Absalom, who had sent their sons to fight for Absalom. So that evidently was why Judah hadn't been stepping in to ask forgiveness, is because they lived in fear, because they were relatives, because they were so close, because they had shown such loyalty before and had been duped by Absalom and Ahithophel. They were very fearful that they had crossed the line for forgiveness. Now Israel, the northern 10 tribes, were kind of like, hey, like, what's the worst that could happen? We rebelled against him for 7 years. He took us back. We rebelled against him again. Why not ask for forgiveness? So he hates us. Like, none of them were probably thoroughly convinced that David liked them anyways, which wasn't true, but they kept waiting for a hammer to drop. So Absalom kind of gave them this out, like, okay, we can rebel against David, the one who killed Saul, the one who took our leader. And of course they blamed him for the death of Saul's son, who had also been crowned king by the northern 10 tribes, remember? But that was actually done by 2 raiding thieves. And David killed them. And remember, they had also lost their general, Abner, to Joab, but as far as they were concerned, this was David's doing. So there was always some tension with the top 10 tribes, the northern 10 tribes. So the fact that they were kind of like, you know what, let's just ask forgiveness and move on. Like we already have a sordid history with David as our king, and he's been good. I mean, and they remind their elders of this. He's the one who really delivered us from the hand of the Philistines. He's rescued us from all of our enemies. We've lived in peace. He did not wipe out all the families who supported, Saul. He did not take out all the elders who had supported the Saul's son, Mephibosheth. No. Was that his name? Oh, I can't remember. Wasn't it? Anyways, I'll move on. I'm sorry. People are like, why does he do this? He should do his own research. I know. I leave too much up to my memory because I keep thinking, oh, I'll remember. Of course you will, Bob. Anyways, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but you get my point. That's what I meant to say. Mephibosheth was Saul's grandson through Jonathan. Okay. Anyways, so who was the guy who reigned in Gilead when David was in Hebron? I'm not remembering. Okay. The little engineer in my head is saying, Bob, find a way to transition out of this because you are really in a rabbit hole you can't get out of. Find a way out, Bob. I will. I'll read a verse. The hearts of the men of Judah are turned by Amasa, who receives mercy, and he in turn communicates that mercy and forgiveness that he received. He communicates it in person as well as in symbol from David. The men of Judah respond, and they're like, okay, let's go see him. So the men of Judah, they come to Gilgal. They go out to meet the king and bring him across the Jordan. But along with them are all these guys from the northern tribe. This is kind of this is kind of funny. So you could call it. I mean, it's sorry. I have this visual in my head. Let me just explain to you. So So the 10 tribes of Israel send northern Israel. They send all their leadership down to the Jordan to welcome David. They're waiting for David to come, but David's not coming to the Jordan until Judah and the southern two tribes welcome him back. So he finally gets word from the southern tribes, okay, we appreciate your forgiveness. We appreciate your mercy. We get it. You're an amazing leader. Come on home. We'll all be there to greet you. And so here from the south come these two tribes of Judah. Well, the northern 10 tribes were the first ones that were there to welcome David. So now what? Well, now the southern tribes show up. And they're all like, well, we're David's relatives. We're his blood. We're family. And the northern 10 tribes are like, no. We were first. We were first. So there's like this real tense, awkward, almost right on the verge of civil war about to break out right there at the river. It's pretty crazy. And that's what we got to get into right here. So I give you that so you understand kind of what's going on. Now, the men of Judah came from Gilgal to meet the king and bring him across the Jordan. By bring him across the Jordan, we're talking like literally they wanted to carry everything for David, like in a show of honor and respect and welcoming and hospitality. Like, and I don't know if you've ever been to the Middle East or if you've ever traveled even to some third world countries, when you walk in and they want to honor somebody, like they'll grab everything from you and try and carry it. Even stuff you don't want them to carry, stuff you don't need them to carry. They want to carry it. And by letting them carry it, you're letting them know, I love and honor you, but they're trying to, their first goal is to love and honor you first. It's fun. They can get a little crazy. It gets you a little nervous, especially if you don't speak the language and you're clearly the guy from America. You're not sure what they're doing because they're grabbing at everything. Well, David wouldn't have had that because, of course, he's the king, and culturally he would have been used to this. So here comes the people from Judah show up. They want to carry everything of David. The people from Israel want to carry everything from David. So Shimei, the son of Gera, the Benjamite from that city, hurries down with the men of Judah to meet the king. With him were 1,000 Benjamites. Remember, that's a tribe of Saul, along with Zibiah, the steward of Saul's household. So Zibiah has been honored so many times by David. Like, he kind of holds a place of eldership in the tribe of Benjamin. Even though technically we would say, he's just a servant. Well, yeah, but a really powerful one. This is like in American business. This would be like there's a board of directors, right? That would be the elders of Israel. But there's one guy on the board who's worked his way up through the company, and everybody knows that if you get him on your side, like, stuff's going to happen. And if he's not on your side, odds are your plans might get a little frustrated, might take a little longer to get things accomplished. If Zibiah is with you, like, it's a big freaking deal. Things are gonna move. So 1,000 people, Benjamites, are with him. That's 1,000 people. So it's not, it's not like a dozen guys, one elder from each little tribe. It's 1,000 people just from the tribe of Benjamin to greet David, and they're all vying for something to carry across the river. Old people, young people, middle-aged people, they're all stomping, sloshing their way across the fords to try and grab something or someone, carry the women, carry the children, carry the sandals, carry the baskets, carry the cakes, carry the heck, they probably wanted to carry the donkeys. Like, it just, this is crazy. Imagine coming to a crowd of several thousand, because we have 1,000 people just from just from the top 10 tribes. The top 10. I keep doing that, right? The northern 10 tribes. It's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy scene. It's funny to me in some ways to think about it, because they're all playing politics, and David knows what's going on. He understands. He understands. They're all basically fighting to show that they're the most loyal, they're the most supportive of what's going on. What else happens? Shimei, he crosses the Jordan. He falls before the king. Now, I stopped there to bring this up. This means things are happening slow. David is letting the process move purposefully. He's not trying to rush the process. Why? Because he knows that the whole country is on the verge of civil war. He knows that everyone who's greeting him has been disloyal. Everyone who greeted him has turned their back on him. Everyone there has ignored his call for help. And in doing so, David knows he needs to take the moment to let everyone there process his arrival, to, in the quick little translation, right, to bring back the king. This is not something that's going to happen quickly. So Shimei comes and he lays down before the king, and he basically pleads for mercy, because he knows that he has a reputation, right? He has a story that on David's way out of Jerusalem, he's the one who didn't just once curse David, but continually cursed David and threw rocks at David and threw dust and dirt on David's men. And David's men wanted to kill Shimei, and David was like, nope, let him curse me. If his job is to curse me, let him curse me. It's this is not your battle, but we're just going to let that go. So Shimei comes. I mean, honestly, he's probably dreaded this for the last month, while all of this information and all these messengers are running back and forth, and he knows David's coming back. And in order to come back to Jerusalem, he's got to walk right by Shimei's house again. He's going to be walking right down the path that Shimei had met him on, and started throwing rocks at him and dust on him and cursing him and telling him he deserved all this, and that he had killed Saul and had taken innocent blood. And oh man, that was a bad scene. Everybody knew about it. So he makes a very public display of asking for forgiveness, which I think is appropriate. So many people who want to, who are offensive in public want to apologize in private. They say something, they cut somebody down, they humiliate them publicly, whether it's at a party or a reception, or in the break room or on the job. They shout some things, they say some things that are hurtful and mean, and everybody laughs. Or maybe no one does, but it's said. And then later they want to kind of meet on the side. They want to meet in secret. They want to send a text, say, hey, yeah, sorry, will you forgive me? But Shimei decides he's going to ask forgiveness. He's going to do it publicly. He's going to let everyone know that what I did was inappropriate. And that's what he said. I have sinned, but I've come here as the first from the tribes of Joseph, northern tribes, to come down and meet the Lord my King. Now, when he says he came first, I don't know. In my head, I picture him kind of pushing his way, shoving his way, splashing across the river first. He gets up there. Everybody who had walked out of Jerusalem knows who he is. They see him coming there. I'm sure Abishai's probably looking at him thinking, what's this idiot going to do now? Is he going to try and kill David now? You kind of picture Abishai like grabbing his sword, looking at him, and he falls on his face before David. He's just humble, and he cries out to him. And what does Abishai say? He's like, let me kill him. Okay, he said, shouldn't Shimei be put to death for this? Which is his way of saying, let me kill him. Like, it's great. He's asked forgiveness. Now let him die. because he cursed you. We all know he cursed you. We were all there, David. We know what this guy was. He did not relent. It wasn't just an emotional response. He was coming at you, and he came at you for a while till literally he got tired of chasing us. No, let me kill him. And David says, I don't think this has anything to do with you. You don't have any right to interfere in this one. Should anyone be put to death today in Israel? Don't I know that today I'm king over Israel? So the king said to Shimei, you're not going to die. And he promised him on an oath. He said, I'm not going to have you killed. I'm not going to kill you. No, we're not going to kill you. In other words, I accept your forgiveness. It was a huge sign of mercy, again, to all the elders. You remember, all the elders of the 10 tribes are there. Thousands of people are watching this. All the people that left Jerusalem are getting their cues from David. All the men that fought for David are getting their cues from David. We are not here to kill and destroy those who rebelled against me. We're not here to seek and destroy. We're here to heal and extend mercy. That's what we're here to do. This is pretty huge. Then Mephibosheth, that name keeps coming back to haunt me. Saul's grandson also went down to meet the king. Remember now, he didn't go out with the king. Zibiah met the king with donkeys and supplies, and he said, you need something to ride, you need food and drink to make it through your journey. And David, remember, he's like, where's Mephibosheth? And he's like, he's still at the palace. So everyone assumed that he was loyal to Absalom. So David gave all the property that had belonged to Jonathan, Mephibosheth's father. He's like, I give it all to you. If I come back, it all belongs to you. And Mephibosheth goes to him and he says, it says he had not taken care of his feet or trimmed his mustache or washed his clothes from the day the king left until he returned safely. So these are months. Now it says he hadn't taken care of his feet, evidently because he had to drag his feet. They were, of course, constantly dirty and probably scabbed over. And he often probably had to change the wraps on them so that they didn't get bloody. And he needed them washed all the time. But as a sign of loyalty to David, he did not do that. And he promised never to do it until David became crowned king again in the palace. He said, I didn't do this from the day you left until you returned safely. And when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king asked him, why didn't you go with me? So Mephibosheth went all the way down, miles, which isn't always an easy journey for somebody who can't walk. And he says, listen, I was loyal to you. I know I didn't follow you for all kinds of reasons, but I made a commitment to show my loyalty to you. And he said, because I, your servant, I'm lame. I said, I will have my donkey saddled and will ride on it so I can go with the king. But Zibiah's in trouble. Wait, what? Zibiah betrayed me. And he slandered your servant to the Lord my king. The king is like an angel of God. Do whatever you wish. All my grandfather's descendants deserve nothing but death from the king, but you gave your servant a place among those who eat at your table. So what right do I have to make any more appeals to the king? Wow. So he basically says, Zibiah brought the donkey that I had saddled to follow you. I wanted to go with you, but I was betrayed. I showed up at the stables. All the donkeys are gone. My servant took them all. He betrayed me. He left me behind. But you know what? I shouldn't have even been in the palace, because if you had been a normal king, if you had been a normal leader, I would have died along with everyone else who was associated with Saul. But you didn't kill everybody because you're not a normal king, and you are like an angel of God. So do whatever you want. Do whatever you choose. I trust your judgment. You judge between me and Zibiah. And Zibiah said, all right. The king said, all right. You and Zibiah will divide the land. Because David couldn't deny the loyalty that Zibiah gave him. And Mephibosheth says, you know what? Just let him have it all. I'm so glad that you're home. I'm so glad that you're back. I'm so glad that you're king. I will live out my days with you. I don't need fields. I don't need livestock. I don't need houses. I'll just hang out at the palace. It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome response because he could have taken half. He could have worked things out with Zibiah. Zibiah had, 15 sons and 20 servants and had become quite the leader in the tribe of Benjamin. Mephibosheth knew that. He had an opportunity here to belittle Zibiah. He explained to everybody what had happened. Everybody understood what had happened. They looked to Zibiah. Zibiah's, down a few notches now in people's opinion poll. And they watched how Mephibosheth was going to behave, and he behaved like he saw David behave. He basically reminded himself and everybody there that David was a man of mercy, a man of kindness, a man of loyalty, a man of family. And he said, you know what? I don't need all that stuff. I don't have any children to pass it on to anyways. It's all going to end up to be Zibiah's. It's all going to go to his kids. Let him have it. Just let him have it now. I'm good with that. I'll stay with you at the palace. I'll eat at the family table. I'll hang out with you because honestly, you're the one I was loyal to from the beginning. And had my donkey been in the stable, I would have rode out with you. But it wasn't. So I did my own little protest in the palace. And man, do I smell. Whoo, doggy. Do I need a shower? Or at least a bath in some stinky oil. Smelly. Essential oil, Bob. Essential. Yes, that's right. Yes, we need essential oils. Essential oils, yes. Frankincense, myrrh, eucalyptus, a little rose hip, little lemon zest. Oh yeah, we'll be smelling great. Mephibosheth will be smelling amazing. Okay, between you and me, I think I've said his name like 6 times perfectly because I haven't been thinking about it. I'm hoping I don't have to say it again. So getting back to the throne in Jerusalem is taking a while. But the reason why it's taking a while is because relationships take time. And healing relationships take time. That's really what I see here. David, in the rebellion, there was broken relationships. There were relationships that had been broken for a while, and David didn't recognize it. And David's taking his time going back to the palace because he knows that relationships with the country have been broken, or at least injured. There's been offenses and hurt precipitated on both sides by multiple tribes to one another, as well as to him and his men and his wives and his concubines. David knows that this is not a flippant thing. He's not going to ride in on his white horse and take over the palace. Remember, he left the palace in a rush. He left the palace, like you can get dethroned real easy, but getting rethroned can take some time. He needs to rebuild connection. He needs to rebuild relationship. And intuitively, I think David understands, I can't just walk in and say, all right, everyone's forgiven. I've shown mercy. Let's get on with it. He's letting the process take place. He's letting people vie for power. He's letting them all run across the fords, trying to grab something and carry across the river. He's letting the North and the South interact with one another and kind of compete because he knows, listen, we need each other. We're going to need to work together. We need to figure this out. He grants forgiveness to Shimei for his curses against him. He withholds death from Shimei because he had cursed him. He reaches out to Mephibosheth and listens to his story and accepts his explanation. That maybe Mephibosheth did want to come with him. Maybe he did get left behind. Maybe Zibiah wasn't loyal. You know what? Let's just forgive it. I let it be said. You and Zibiah can work it out. And instead of negotiating the split, Mephibosheth just pours out mercy just like David did. He responds to leadership. And that's so true in life, right? You can take the lead in a relationship and you can say, all right, let's work this out. Now, I do understand some relationships, the first thing you need to work out is some really strict boundaries because they're hurtful, toxic relationships. This had turned into a toxic relationship. But both sides are at least showing willingness to work at it. Both sides. And David is feeding that. He is releasing energy to that rebuilding process. Now, between you and me, I'm going to go ahead and end this because it's already been like almost an hour. But it doesn't always go smooth, even if you're both willing. It doesn't always go smooth. But we'll get into that next week. Guys, thanks so much for joining me once again on The Epic Narrative.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to this podcast on any platform you use. You can also reach out to Bob for questions or booking at thebobswitzer.com or email him at thebobswitzer@gmail.com. See you next week, guys.